Have you ever wondered what it truly means to be called a genius? Not the kind of brilliance we casually attribute to someone good at solving puzzles or excelling in school, but the rare, almost mythical level of genius that seems to transcend time itself. When we talk about such figures, one name inevitably rises above all others: Leonardo da Vinci. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. Not only about the man who painted the world's most famous smile, but also about the boundless curiosity that made him far more than just an artist. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Leonardo da Vinci is often introduced as the painter of the Mona Lisa and The Last Supper, masterpieces that continue to captivate millions. Yet, reducing him to just a painter feels like calling the ocean a puddle. He was a man of unmatched intelligence and creativity, someone whose mind roamed freely between disciplines that most of us would never dream of connecting: art, science, anatomy, mathematics, botany, geology, even engineering. Leonardo didn't just dabble in these fields. He immersed himself in them, leaving behind sketches, studies, and designs that still baffle us today. Has this ever happened to you, where you find yourself fascinated by something so vast that you can't stop exploring it? That restless curiosity was the essence of Leonardo. In fact, to understand his genius, we need to look beyond the brushstrokes of his paintings. Yes, the enigmatic smile of the Mona Lisa continues to draw countless visitors to the Louvre every year. Yes, the dramatic intensity of The Last Supper immortalized one of the most sacred moments in Christian history. But Leonardo's brilliance was not confined to canvas. His notebooks reveal a man obsessed with observing, recording, and reimagining the world around him. Within those pages, you'll find flying machines sketched centuries before aviation became a reality, studies of the human body that remain astonishing in their accuracy, and ideas so advanced that they seem to belong to another age altogether. What makes Leonardo so captivating is not just what he achieved, but how he thought. He saw connections where others saw boundaries. For him, the veins of a leaf mirrored the veins of the human body, and the flow of water was not so different from the flow of air. This holistic vision allowed him to approach problems in ways no one else could. Isn't it intriguing to think that the same hand that painted the tender details of a face also engineered the designs for war machines and explored the mysteries of anatomy? And yet, despite his unparalleled reputation today, Leonardo was also human. He struggled with distractions, often leaving projects unfinished because his mind had already leapt toward the next idea. His patrons sometimes grew frustrated, never knowing if the masterpiece they commissioned would ever be completed. But perhaps this was the price of true genius, a mind that could not be contained by deadlines or conventions. What you're about to discover is that Leonardo's story is as much about restlessness as it is about brilliance. Think for a moment. How does a man become remembered not only as an artist, but also as an engineer, a scientist, a philosopher, and even a dreamer of machines that would only come to life centuries later? The answer lies in Leonardo's insatiable hunger to learn, to observe, and to push the limits of what was known. His life reminds us that genius is not about mastering one subject, but about embracing all of them, weaving them together into something extraordinary. And this is only the beginning. In the next moments, we'll journey deeper into his world, exploring not just the works that made him immortal, but the restless curiosity that defined him. What drove him to sketch wings when men were bound to the earth? What compelled him to capture the subtle shift of a smile in ways no artist before or after ever could? The answers await, and the story of Leonardo da Vinci is about to unfold before your eyes. If you enjoy content that opens new perspectives and connects you with powerful stories, make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss any of the insights and revelations we share here, and together, we can keep exploring ideas that truly make a difference. Leonardo's story becomes even more intriguing when we step away from the familiar paintings and enter the hidden truth behind his insatiable curiosity. He was not a man confined to one discipline, nor someone satisfied with mastering only a single craft. Instead, his mind wandered through engineering, botany, anatomy, mathematics, geology, and literature, as if knowledge itself were an endless landscape to be explored. This wasn't just study for the sake of study. It was a transformation of perspective, a mindset that refused to accept limits. Every observation he made carried the potential to spark something greater, whether it was a drawing of a plant that resembled the branching of rivers or a sketch of a machine that echoed the wings of a bird. What makes this journey so powerful is how far ahead of his time he truly was. Imagine living in the 15th century and envisioning inventions that wouldn't become reality until centuries later. Flying machines, soaring in the skies, tanks designed for warfare, systems of sewers to transform cities, or even parachutes that could defy gravity. These were not mere fantasies scribbled in a notebook. They were the product of a mind determined to decode the hidden mechanics of the world. It's almost as if Leonardo could see the invisible threads connecting nature, science, and human potential, threads others were blind to. His designs may not have all been built in his lifetime, but their impact rippled forward, shaping the imagination of generations to come. Behind the scenes of this extraordinary vision lies a childhood that remains largely veiled in mystery. Unlike many intellectual giants, Leonardo did not receive a classical education steeped in Latin or philosophy. Instead, he attended an abacus school, where he learned practical mathematics for trade and commerce. That was the extent of his formal training. Yet it was enough to ignite his path, showing us that the decisions made in early life don't always dictate the limits of what we can achieve. From this modest foundation, Leonardo carved out a future that would challenge the very boundaries of human understanding. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the real revelations begin when we see how his unconventional education and restless curiosity combined to shape a unique way of thinking that continues to inspire today. His journey teaches us that the pursuit of knowledge is not about credentials or titles, but about a relentless desire to observe, connect, and imagine. If this resonates with you, write in the comments. This makes sense to me. It will be fascinating to see how many of us recognize the same spark of curiosity in our own path. Leonardo's path began to take shape when his father recognized a spark that could not be ignored. Instead of letting his son drift through the ordinary trades of the time, he made a decision that would transform not only Leonardo's destiny, but in many ways, the course of art and science itself. He placed the young boy in the workshop of Andrea del Verrocchio, one of Florence's most respected painters and sculptors. Behind the scenes of that bustling atelier, filled with apprentices grinding pigments and preparing canvases, Leonardo's restless curiosity found fertile ground. It was more than training. It was initiation into a world where creativity and discipline coexisted, where every brushstroke was both craft and revelation. By the age of 14, Leonardo was already standing out, not only for the fluid grace of his sketches but also for the striking presence he carried. Accounts describe him as remarkably handsome, strong, and elegant, a figure who drew attention as much for his physical beauty as for his talent. This combination of appearance and ability made him unforgettable, and it wasn't long before he became a model for his own master's creations. There is something almost symbolic in that moment. The student not only learning from the teacher but literally embodying the ideal of beauty that art sought to capture. Isn't it fascinating how life sometimes foreshadows the greatness to come? The defining revelation of this period came when Leonardo contributed to Verrocchio's painting, The Baptism of Christ. His task was to paint a simple angel and part of the background, but what emerged was so breathtaking that it eclipsed the master's work. The angel radiated a softness, a depth, a presence that had rarely been seen on canvas. Legend has it that Verrocchio confronted with the hidden truth that his pupil had surpassed him, decided never to paint again. Whether or not that story is entirely accurate, the impact is undeniable. From that moment, Leonardo was no longer just an apprentice. He was recognized as someone destined to leave a mark that no one could ignore. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because this episode reveals more than just artistic talent. It shows us how transformation often happens in silence, behind the scenes, when someone dares to push beyond the limits of what is expected. Leonardo wasn't trying to outshine his master. He was simply expressing his own vision. And in doing so, he set into motion a journey that would redefine not only painting, but the very way humans perceive reality through art. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "I'm also on this path." It will be powerful to see how many of us feel connected to the idea of quietly surpassing limitations and embracing our own unique impact. One of the most fascinating aspects of Leonardo's journey is his restless spirit, that unshakable drive to move forward, even when the world expected him to stay still. He often left works unfinished, not because of laziness or lack of discipline, but because his curiosity pushed him beyond what was in front of him. For Leonardo, a painting was never just a painting. It was an experiment, a chance to test a new pigment, a brushstroke, a technique that could capture light in ways no one had dared before. And once he felt he had unlocked the hidden truth behind that experiment, his mind was already on to the next challenge. This pattern frustrated patrons who longed for completed commissions, but it revealed something deeper. His genius was never about the product, but about the transformation that came through the process itself. In 1482, seeking new horizons and opportunities that matched the scale of his ambition, Leonardo made a pivotal decision. He left Florence and moved to Milan, entering the service of Ludovico Sforza, a powerful duke who would become both patron and ally. This was more than a geographical change. It was a shift in mindset. Florence was vibrant, but Milan offered the stage for something larger, a chance to weave art, science, and spectacle together in ways no one had yet imagined. Accompanied by his young apprentice Salai, Leonardo stepped into a city brimming with political intrigue, cultural refinement, and the promise of projects that could amplify his vision. Behind the scenes, his role was not confined to painting. At first, he organized elaborate court spectacles, blending music, theater, engineering, and design into immersive experiences that stunned audiences. These performances were not simply entertainment. They were glimpses of Leonardo's ability to transform imagination into reality, to create environments where the boundaries between art and invention dissolved. It was in Milan, under this atmosphere of grandeur and experimentation, that he began working on what would become one of the most celebrated masterpieces of all time, The Last Supper. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because The Last Supper is not just a painting on a convent wall. It is a revelation of Leonardo's vision of human emotion, storytelling, and the profound impact of a single moment frozen in time. The decision to depict not serenity, but shock, movement, and tension was revolutionary, a bold departure from tradition that mirrored his own refusal to accept limits. If this perspective speaks to you, write in the comments, "I see the hidden truth." It will be incredible to witness how many of us resonate with the idea that real impact often comes from daring to show what others choose to overlook. The commission for the monumental bronze horse was not just another project in Leonardo's career. It was an opportunity to embody power, ambition, and vision on a scale rarely attempted before. Ludovico Sforza wanted a statue that would immortalize his dynasty, something that would tower over the city as a symbol of strength and prestige. For Leonardo, however, this was more than politics or prestige. It became a journey into the very essence of movement, anatomy, and the hidden truth of nature itself. To sculpt a horse that appeared alive in bronze, he needed to understand the animal not as an external form, but as a living machine, a perfect balance of muscles, bones, and grace. This decision led him into places few artists dared to go. He dissected horses with the same relentless mindset he applied to human anatomy, pulling back layers of skin and muscle to uncover the mechanics beneath. Page after page of his notebooks became filled with revelations, detailed sketches of tendons, notes on posture, calculations of proportion. Behind the scenes, Leonardo was not only sculpting clay, he was sculpting knowledge itself. Each drawing became a map of discovery, capturing the hidden truth of how life expresses itself in form. This transformation of raw observation into art was his genius at work, the ability to translate the invisible into something visible, eternal, and impactful. By 1493, after years of studies, he unveiled the clay model of the great horse. It was colossal, almost 8 meters tall, an audacious vision of what art and engineering could achieve together. The spectacle left audiences in awe, cementing Leonardo's reputation not just as a painter, but as a master capable of bridging imagination with reality. Yet what makes this moment even more powerful is that it revealed something deeper about him, his ability to dream beyond the limitations of his era. The bronze horse was not only a statue, it was a declaration of possibility, proof that human creativity could match the scale of ambition. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because while admiration poured over the clay masterpiece, the journey of the bronze horse was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would expose the fragile intersection between vision and the unpredictable course of history. If this story speaks to you, write in the comments, "Dreams have impact." It will be inspiring to see how many of us believe that even unfinished visions can transform the way we see what is possible. The story of the great bronze horse takes a dramatic turn when history itself intervenes. Just as Leonardo was preparing to bring his monumental vision to life, Milan was invaded by French forces. The bronze that had been carefully reserved for his statue, tons of precious metal meant to capture a moment of power and legacy, was instead melted down and transformed into cannons of war. In an instant, years of study, design, and preparation collided with the unpredictable force of politics and conflict. It is one of those hidden truths of history. Genius may envision, but fate often decides. Leonardo's dream stood frozen in clay, a silent reminder of how fragile even the grandest ambitions can be when faced with the decisions of men in power. The fall of Milan in 1499 forced Leonardo to abandon not only his masterpiece, but also the city that had been his stage for innovation. With his loyal companion Salai by his side, he fled to Venice, seeking safety and new opportunities. Behind the scenes, this was more than a change of location. It was a transformation of context, a shift that would redirect his journey yet again. Venice offered its own energy, with its bustling trade and strategic position, but Leonardo's restless spirit eventually pulled him back to Florence, the city where his story had first begun to take root. It was there, around 1503, that he began work on the painting that would become not only his most famous creation, but perhaps the most recognized work of art in the world, the Mona Lisa. Unlike the lost bronze horse, this canvas carried his genius into immortality. The portrait seems deceptively simple at first glance, but within it lies a profound revelation of Leonardo's mindset. The subtle smile, the eyes that seem to follow you, the atmosphere that feels both intimate and eternal, these were not accidents. They were deliberate choices, a culmination of years of observing light, studying anatomy, and capturing emotion with unmatched sensitivity. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the Mona Lisa is more than just a portrait. It is a mirror reflecting not only the sitter's expression, but also the artist's own obsession with the hidden layers of human experience. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "I see the impact of genius." It will be powerful to witness how many of us feel the weight of history in a single gaze that continues to captivate the world. By 1506, Leonardo once again returned to Milan. But this time the journey carried a new depth. He was not the same man who had once fled the city in the face of war. Now, he returned with Salai at his side, and a young boy named Francesco Melzi, who would become more than an apprentice. He would become a devoted companion, a witness to the last chapters of Leonardo's extraordinary journey. Behind the scenes of this relationship lay something profound. Leonardo was not only shaping works of art, but also shaping the mindset of the next generation, passing down revelations hidden in his sketches, his thoughts, and his approach to the mysteries of nature. It wasn't just about creating. It was about leaving a legacy of curiosity and transformation. Milan became once again the stage of his explorations, a place where his restless energy unfolded between commissions, experiments, and studies that never seemed to end. He remained there until 1513, when the tides of history pushed him onward. Moving first to Rome, Leonardo found himself in an environment dominated by the grandeur of the papacy and the rising presence of other artists, each one vying for recognition. Yet his journey would not end there. His path carried him farther, beyond the Italian courts, into the heart of France. The decision to leave Italy and accept the invitation of King Francis III in 1516 was more than a geographical shift. It was the culmination of a lifetime of choices, failures, and triumphs. Welcomed at Amboise, Leonardo was given the title of painter, architect, and mechanic of the king, a recognition not only of his artistic skill, but of the vastness of his genius. Imagine the impact of that moment. A man who had once dissected horses in the shadows of Milanese stables now stood honored in a foreign court as a master of invention, creation, and vision. It was a transformation that revealed the hidden truth of Leonardo's journey, that true greatness is not confined to borders, and the resonance of genius travels far beyond the place where it was born. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because Leonardo's final years in France reveal not decline, but a different kind of power. The quiet authority of someone whose life's work had already begun to change the way humanity would think, dream, and create. If this reflection speaks to you, write in the comments, "The journey leaves impact." It will be fascinating to see how many of us recognize that sometimes the final stage of a story carries the greatest revelations of all. By 1519, Leonardo's body had begun to show the weight of time, though his mind never truly surrendered to it. Illness weakened him, and paralysis in one hand limited the fluid movements that had once translated his imagination so effortlessly onto canvas and paper. Yet even in those fragile days, his focus was not on despair, but on decisions that would shape what remained of his legacy. Preparing his will became less about endings and more about ensuring that the impact of his life's work would continue its journey long after his final breath. This was Leonardo's transformation, in its most human form, the acceptance that genius, like life itself, must eventually pass into the hands of others. To Francesco Melzi and Salai, the companions who had remained closest to him through triumphs and trials, he entrusted his manuscripts and works. These were not ordinary possessions, but revelations written in ink and sketched in detail across thousands of pages. Within them lay the hidden truth of Leonardo's mindset, observations of nature, studies of anatomy, designs of machines, and reflections on art and science that would ripple across centuries. By giving them to those who understood him best, Leonardo ensured that his genius would not vanish with his passing, but would survive through the eyes and hands of those he had guided. It was more than inheritance. It was a conscious decision to plant seeds of inspiration for futures he would never see. On May 2, 1519, at the age of 67, Leonardo da Vinci passed away in Amboise. His death marked the end of a physical presence, but not the end of his influence. Buried in foreign soil, far from the Florence of his childhood and the Milan of his greatest experiments, he left behind not emptiness, but a map of possibilities. the man who once dissected horses to capture their strength, who painted angels that silenced masters, who designed machines centuries before their time, closed his eyes for the last time, knowing that his journey was larger than any single life. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because Leonardo's death was not a conclusion, but the beginning of a new chapter where myth, memory, and reality intertwined, shaping how the world would remember him. If this perspective resonates with you, write in the comments, "Legacy inspires me." It will be powerful to see how many of us carry the belief that even when a life ends, its echoes can transform the way others think, create, and dream. After his passing, Leonardo's story took on an almost mythical quality. His remains, first buried in the church of Saint-Florentin, were later reinterred in the chapel of Saint Hubert at Amboise Castle, a place where history and memory blend in silence. It is striking to think that the man who carried so much light within him, who transformed the way we see art, science, and the hidden truth of human potential, would rest in a chapel tucked into the corner of a castle far from the city of his birth. Yet perhaps this distance mirrors the journey of his life itself, never confined to one place, always in motion, always stretching beyond boundaries. What made Leonardo unforgettable was not only his genius, but also his presence. Accounts describe a man admired for his beauty, with golden curls, strong features, and a charisma that drew people to him. Behind the scenes of his intellectual power, there was also warmth, generosity, and an elegance in the way he carried himself. He was not the isolated figure of the stereotype of genius. He was someone who loved conversation, who shared his thoughts openly, who cultivated friendships and drew people into his orbit. His impact went beyond his notebooks and paintings. It was felt in the way he connected to others. Even in his personal choices, Leonardo revealed a mindset that was ahead of its time. He was a vegetarian, a decision that reflected his compassion and love for animals and nature. This was not common in the Renaissance, yet it reveals the transformation of thought that guided him. He observed life in all its forms with respect, finding harmony where others might see only utility. To him, the world was a web of connections, and his empathy extended not just to people, but to the living earth itself. This sensitivity shaped his art, his observations, and the way he carried himself daily, showing us that genius is not only about intellect, but about the decisions we make that align with our values. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because Leonardo's personal traits, his beauty, his compassion, his elegance, are not separate from his work. They are part of the hidden truth of why his creations resonate so deeply. If you feel that character and creativity are inseparable, write in the comments, "Genius is also compassion." It will be fascinating to see how many of us recognize that true impact is measured not only in what we create, but in how we live. Leonardo's gift for observation was unlike anything the world had seen. He could fix his gaze on the smallest movement, the most fleeting gesture, and transfer it to canvas with a precision that felt almost supernatural. It wasn't just about technique, it was about mindset, about seeing the hidden truth in moments others overlooked. Where another painter might depict a still face, Leonardo captured the shift of an emotion, the transformation of a thought just before it became visible. This ability to freeze time, to grasp what slips through unnoticed, is why his art continues to resonate centuries later. It reminds us that true genius is not only about grand visions, but about the patience to see what is invisible to most. Yet behind the scenes of his brilliance, questions about his private life have stirred endless fascination. His sexuality has long been debated, with historical accusations suggesting relations with young men, accusations that were never proven, but that shadowed him in a society where such claims carried heavy consequences. The hidden truth is that Leonardo seemed unbothered by the whispers. He lived with a serenity that reflected his refusal to be confined by social expectations, a quiet resilience that mirrored the courage in his creative choices. Whether or not the rumors had any foundation, they did not diminish his impact. Instead, they highlight a man unafraid of ambiguity, someone whose journey was guided not by the judgments of others, but by his own inner compass. What makes this even more striking is the way he approached the portrayal of women, at a time when art often reduced them to symbols or ornaments. Leonardo painted them with sensitivity and depth, capturing an essence that went beyond physical beauty. He revealed complexity, mystery, and individuality, as if his brush could uncover the inner life of the sitter. This perspective speaks of decisions shaped by empathy, by the same compassion that led him to see all forms of life as interconnected. His portraits of women are not merely images, they are revelations of humanity itself. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because the tension between Leonardo's private life, the public's perception, and the intimacy revealed in his art shows us how creativity often emerges from the space between acceptance and defiance. If this perspective resonates with you, write in the comments, "Art reveals the hidden truth." It will be fascinating to see how many of us believe that the most profound impact of art lies not in answers, but in the questions it dares to raise. In Florence, Leonardo's life reflected not only the genius of his mind but also the eccentricity of his choices. He lived extravagantly, investing heavily in books and clothing that set him apart from the norms of his time. While others conformed to sober attire, he often appeared in public wearing a simple pink tunic that reached only to his knees, an unusual decision that spoke volumes about his mindset. It was not vanity, but a declaration of independence, a subtle revelation that he would not be bound by convention. His presence was as impactful as his creations, reminding those around him that transformation often begins with the courage to stand out. His home mirrored this same hunger for knowledge. Leonardo's personal library was vast and eclectic, filled with works on anatomy, medicine, mathematics, philosophy, and even collections of fables. Each book represented a doorway to another world, feeding a curiosity that seemed insatiable. This was not just reading for pleasure, it was part of his journey of discovery, a relentless pursuit of understanding the hidden truth behind how nature and humanity operated. He was building not just a library of texts, but a library of connections, where one field of study could unlock insights in another. Yet Leonardo was not content to simply absorb the ideas of others. He created his own. Alongside his studies, he wrote fables that blended imagination with moral reflections, weaving lessons about life, choice, and consequence. His notebooks, around 7,000 pages, that have survived, reveal the behind-the-scenes workings of a mind that never stopped moving. On those pages, art collides with science, geometry meets poetry, and inventions spring forth as if from a dream. They are not organized volumes but living fragments of a restless spirit, a mirror of his refusal to limit thought to tidy categories. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because within those pages lies not just the genius of Leonardo, but the blueprint of how curiosity itself becomes transformation. If this perspective resonates with you, write in the comments, "Curiosity is the key." It will be fascinating to see how many of us recognize that the true impact of knowledge comes not from storing it, but from daring to explore where it leads. Among the many peculiarities of Leonardo's genius, one detail continues to intrigue scholars and admirers alike: his habit of writing in mirror script. His notes, filled with sketches and revelations, were often written from right to left, requiring a mirror to be read with ease. Some believe this was merely a practical decision, a way for a left-handed man to avoid smudging fresh ink as his hand moved across the page. Others see it as a layer of hidden truth, perhaps a deliberate choice to protect his ideas from prying eyes. Whatever the reason, it adds to the aura of mystery surrounding his journey, as though even his words were coated with the same depth that marked his art. Yet the fate of those manuscripts reflects a story as dramatic as any painting. After Francesco Melzi's death, the faithful pupil who inherited them. Many of the notebooks were scattered, sold, or lost, drifting through time like fragments of a broken mirror. Each page carried insights that could have transformed the way humanity advanced, but history's decisions meant that much of this treasure was dispersed into private collections, often hidden away from public view. Behind the scenes of this dispersal lies the impact of chance. How fragile the survival of genius can be when entrusted to the uncertainties of inheritance and time. Still, fragments survived. Over the centuries, scholars, collectors, and visionaries attempted to recover and categorize what remained. Pages were gathered, bound, and studied, allowing glimpses into the restless energy of Leonardo's mind. Even so, the collection is incomplete, as though his ideas were destined to remain elusive, half-revealed, like the enigmatic smile of the Mona Lisa. And in modern times, some of these notebooks have found their way into the hands of powerful collectors, among them Bill Gates, who owns one of the most famous codices. The thought that centuries after Leonardo's death, his words still inspire curiosity in minds shaped by technology and modern ambition is a revelation of just how timeless his impact remains. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because the survival of these notebooks reminds us that knowledge is not static. It is a journey that can be interrupted, scattered, and rediscovered, yet still retain the power to transform. If this resonates with you, write in the comments. Ideas outlive time. It will be fascinating to see how many of us believe that the true legacy of genius is carried not only by complete works, but also by the fragments that continue to inspire across centuries. When Leonardo began working on the Last Supper between 1495 and 1498, he was not merely creating a religious painting, he was crafting an emotional revelation frozen in time. Instead of following convention and portraying a calm, balanced scene, he chose the very instant when Jesus announces that one of the disciples will betray him. The result is a composition charged with tension, each figure reacting with disbelief, anger, or confusion, while Christ remains serene at the center. This decision was a transformation in storytelling through art, capturing not only appearances, but the hidden truth of human emotion. It was as if Leonardo had taken the chaos of a fleeting moment and given it permanence, allowing viewers across centuries to feel the same impact as those present at the table. Yet even masterpieces are not immune to the journey of time. The technique Leonardo experimented with, a mix of tempera and oil on dry plaster, was innovative but unstable. Within only a few decades, the colors began to fade and the surface to deteriorate. By the 17th century, its state had worsened to the point where, in 1652, monks cut a doorway through the very wall where the painting resided, destroying the lower portion that showed the feet of Jesus. This hidden truth of history is sobering. Even the greatest works can be scarred by neglect, decisions, and the passage of time. And still, despite the damage, restorations, and fading pigments, the painting's impact remains undeniable, continuing to inspire awe, as though the essence of Leonardo's vision transcends the fragility of its material form. If the Last Supper was an explosion of drama, Mona Lisa, begun in 1503, was its quiet counterpart, subtle yet infinitely powerful. Small in size, measuring only 77 by 53 centimeters, it carries a presence that dwarfs canvases many times larger. The enigmatic smile has been interpreted as joy, melancholy, serenity, or even hidden knowledge, while the eyes seem to follow the viewer, creating an unsettling intimacy. Behind the scenes, Leonardo used delicate layers of sfumato, blending tones so gently that edges disappear, allowing light and shadow to transform the portrait into something alive. What makes it extraordinary is not only the skill of execution, but the mindset it reveals. Leonardo sought not to paint a face, but to capture a soul, the invisible truth behind human expression. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the juxtaposition of these two works, the explosive drama of The Last Supper and the quiet mystery of Mona Lisa, offers profound insight into Leonardo's ability to embody both extremes of human experience. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "Emotion lives in art." It will be fascinating to see how many of us recognize that the greatest impact of creativity lies in its power to reveal what words can never fully express. Among Leonardo's many creations, one stands out as a symbol of his unique ability to merge disciplines that others treated as separate. The Vitruvian Man, drawn around 1490, is more than a study of the human body. It is a revelation of harmony between art, science, and philosophy. Inspired by the writings of the Roman architect Vitruvius, Leonardo set out to illustrate the perfect proportions of the human figure, inscribing it within both a circle and a square. But behind this seemingly simple diagram lies a mindset that viewed humanity not as isolated from the universe, but as a reflection of its hidden order. Every line, every measure, carries the weight of transformation. The body as a map of symmetry, balance, and natural law. It is as if Leonardo was saying that to understand man is to understand the cosmos itself. The drawing has become iconic, not only for its aesthetic beauty, but for what it represents about Leonardo's journey. It reveals a way of thinking that refused to separate creativity from calculation, imagination from observation. In this single work, art and geometry converse, showing us that the boundaries we so often build between disciplines are illusions. This hidden truth explains why his legacy feels so timeless. He was not confined to being a painter or an inventor or a scientist. He embodied all of these roles at once, with each feeding into the other to create a vision of knowledge as interconnected. That is why Leonardo da Vinci continues to be celebrated not only as a master of his age, but as a visionary whose impact stretches across centuries. He was a painter who could redefine beauty with a single brushstroke, a scientist who sought to uncover the mechanics of life itself, and an inventor who designed machines that anticipated the future. His genius was not the product of chance, but of a mindset rooted in endless curiosity and fearless exploration. Even today, his journey inspires us to reconsider the way we think, to see connections where others see divisions, to embrace the possibility that the greatest truths are found not in one field of study, but in the space where all of them meet. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because Leonardo's story is not only about the brilliance of one man, but about what it reveals regarding the hidden potential within all of us, the power to observe, to connect, and to transform. If this idea resonates with you, write in the comments, "The journey of genius continues." It will be fascinating to see how many of us feel that Leonardo's impact is not just history, but an invitation to see our own world differently. If you've made it all the way here, it means this journey through Leonardo's world resonated with you as much as it does with me. That's exactly why subscribing to the channel makes sense. You'll always have access to stories, ideas, and perspectives that bring history and creativity to life in ways that feel meaningful. And since we've walked this path together until the very end, leave a comment with the phrase "I'm with you until the end," so I know you're part of this conversation and connected to the same spark of curiosity. A like on this video is also a simple way to show that what we explored together made an impact, helping us keep building this space for deeper reflections. And if you want to keep this flow going, there's a video right here that complements this topic perfectly. Click and continue with me over there. I think you'll find it just as captivating.